be with you today. Today we have Sir John Owens with us. So me and Sir John was just talking about some things there back in the days, you know, at big league soccer, and didn't really realize as a kid, you know, as a teenager, I used to be watching Sir John play in England, some of the top teams he played against. But let me introduce you to Sir John Owens. You know, it's just amazing when you look at his credentials and you look at Sir John, some of the things he did in soccer is just quite amazing. Rubs shoulders with some of the greats in the game, you know, as a consultant with the English Premier League, the J League, the MLS, the manager of England S.A.S.S.A team, also was the manager of the England under 15 team. Liverpool, that great organization, Liverpool. Sir John, we want to welcome you to the Student Athlete Scholarship Academy, Sir John.
Thank you.
It's an honor and a privilege to have you here. And as we were speaking just now, catching up on some old times, you know, I was a kid back in Trinidad running to look at the television screen to see you play, Sir John.
Well, I'm not sure I was on your screen too much. As a part-time professional, I was on when the FA Cup was on.
Yes.
So
yes.
we had some good runs through to the third round and played some big teams: Everton, Blackburn Rovers, Tottenham Hotspur, Liverpool. But of course, the big clubs, if you don't sneak away a win straight away, they sort you out.
what is the difference? What is the difference, Sir John, you would say, in the soccer now versus the way it was before in your time when you were playing at that level?
I think one of the big differences is, of course, the Premier League. We call it obviously the English Premier League. In some cases, some people call it the World Premier League. It just happens to be in England. If there were some rich people in Italy or Spain that could coax the players across there, all those players would move, of course, and it would be in Italy or Spain or wherever. It just happens to be in England. But when I was playing, there were far less foreign players. Okay, we knew about the Italians, the Spanish, the French, and so on, all of those in Europe. But they generally didn't come through. The influx came a bit later.
Yeah, quite interesting. And some of the guys that I used to admire, you know, I realized that you play against them. The Garth Crooks and the Ozzy Adiles and the Ricky Villiers and the Chris Newton. I was a Tottenham fan, you can tell, right?
Okay, yeah.
I was a Tottenham fan way back then with, you know, with all these guys, and I used to just love the Tottenham Hotspurs playing back in the day, and some great soccer. They came up against some top clubs too. You know, we had Liverpool with Kenny Dalglish and Ian Rush, and one of my favorites, Sammy Lee.
Sammy Lee, of course, yeah.
Yeah, Sammy Lee. These was guys that I used to just run to the television set. I could have been eaten, Sir John, by the table. Once this start, I was gone, you know. I was going in front of the TV because I want to see fellas like Sammy Lee. I want to see these top guys. Everton had a wonderful team back in those days. I'm trying to recall. I remember the goalkeeper too, the Everton goalkeeper back in those days. He was really good. Trying to recall his name. But
Which one was it? Was it Di Davis or later?
It was later than him. Later than him. Some really top soccer back in England in those days where you would see some of those great players playing. But you know, you rub shoulders against some of these guys in the FA Cup and some of these. How was it like at that time, Sir John?
Yeah, well, when we mentioned about playing Tottenham, we played at White Hart Lane first game. We drew 1-1, so we had the replay. We took the replay back to Manchester City's ground so we could get a bigger crowd, 30,000, instead of going to our own smaller ground. But at that time, with Ozzy Ardiles and Ricky Villa, they were kind of the first ones who came over as foreign players into the English league, or English and some Welsh teams. And of course, it improved the whole process, and bringing more improved the quality level. But what it actually did as well was it took away places for English players or Scottish players and Welsh players and so on. So many of those players didn't get that kind of experience. And then when England or the national teams would play, they didn't have as strong a team because the Premier League or the top places were taken by a lot of foreign players. And when you look at, for instance, over the recent years, Belgium have done very well. They have a lot of good players, but a lot of those have gained their experience in England, not in Belgium. And the fact that they've played against top players has helped the Belgian national team.
Quite interesting. It's just, it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. As we speak about this, reminiscent of this, I could just remember myself sitting in front of that TV, Sir John, didn't want it to move at all, waiting for my Tottenham to come out from, you know, White Hart Lane, and that blue and white uniform they would come out with, and I would watch all these Chris Newton and all these guys playing, Ray Clement, all these top guys. I would sit down, and I had the opportunity of seeing them close up in Trinidad. That team traveled to Trinidad at one point, where I saw guys like God Cooks and all these guys. I saw them playing in Trinidad, because a number of those soccer teams travel. I know Arsenal traveled there at one point, and a number of top clubs, you know, Brazilian clubs, European clubs traveled to Trinidad. That time, we used to bring in a number of top clubs into Trinidad to play in the Queen's Park Oval. And then we had the great Pele there at one point. I remember getting in the Oval to see the great Pele, and was just blown away by just seeing him on the field playing against some of the guys that I eventually played with, some of them in later on in their careers. I played with some of them as they were heading out. Guys like Ron Lafferty and all these guys, I had the pleasure on their way out of soccer. I had the pleasure of playing with some of them, with some of the teams back in Trinidad. But it's really, really interesting, Sir John. And I would just open up the floor to you, and you can take it from there and go into your presentation. And I know you have a lot of wonderful information to share with us that we can learn and grow and develop. And we have people log on the different social media sites and viewing you around the world, and also on our Zoom meeting here. So the floor is yours, Sir John, and thank you so much again for gracing us with your presence.
Okay, so well, just as an introduction, Anthony, with our young players at Liverpool, they would, up to age 16, they would stay at school for their education, their normal education, and they would come to the academy in the evenings and play at the weekends. But at 16, they would make a decision whether to come for 2 years full time. They would still go to a bit of schooling, because then they might go to college or university, because of course, just coming to an academy doesn't mean you're going to become a professional player. They hope that's the case, but many, many don't, of course. So we have to give them a great experience with the football, with the coaching, the facilities, the competition, and also help the parents to look after them. And the main thing was, we kind of were pleased that they'd been signed at Liverpool, but we didn't want them to think they've made it at that young age, because there's a long process still to go, and lots of hard work, even harder work than they've already started with. So some of the presentations, we would try and make sure they understood what was ahead of them. And okay, sometimes it would be about nutrition. We'd involve the parents with that. Sometimes it was about the football content, like video and so on, analysis. But this one that I'm going to show today was one that I would give to the players as they were coming in full time, to make sure that we said, yes, you've done a great job to get selected by us, but there's a lot more to do, and don't think you've made it. Let me just see if I can run the program for you. I'll be a minute, because it's not sort of straight tactical or technique work. And here, showing off. Now, I noticed with a lot of my visits to the USA, in UK, in England and the United Kingdom, showing off can be seen as something a bit bragging, that you're being a bit big-headed. You're showing some arrogance about, hey, look at me. And yet, I noticed with the USA, their idea of showing off was a positive thing about, look at me, I'm good at this. So it's a bit like when you see a singer on stage or a theater act or so on, a musical, they are showing off because that's what they're good at. And so I had to say with our players, I don't want you getting big-headed and thinking you've made it. There's a lot more to do, but I do want you to see that every time you have a game, this is your moment to show us what you can do. And part of that is also to see what we need to work on to make you better. So we're showing off the talent at its best. And in a way, I was saying, if you're not ready to show off all that you can do, then why show up? Why be there? You're there to play a game and to play for the team and to do your best. And that means that you're looking to play well. Now, why do it? Why show off? Why do your best like that? And I say here, you do it because it's in your own best interests. That's what gets you to what you want to do. Enjoyment, you feel good about being successful. And you get a good feeling from being good at something. You get praise from people, your parents, the coach, other adults, and say, well done, and from your players. So we like to do good at something, and you want to be the best you can be. It works best if you can do it so that your club, your coach, your teammates, everybody gets what they want because you're part of a team. And that's the task. Find the best way for you to get what you want while you allow others to get what's good for them, what they want. Now, is there something, I say to the players, is there something that you'd really like to do or make of yourself? Sometimes you might get people saying, oh, it won't happen, you're only dreaming. It's good to dream, but we have to be getting it towards realism. We have to be realistic. And you mustn't be put off by people who don't want to say, oh, that's possible. Of course, you're at a professional club. We don't want people saying, oh, you're going to be in the first team in a few years' time. You've got to earn the right to get there. So, but don't fall into the other trap of wanting to be sure of something before you try it. So I wanted players to give things a go. And this is an important line here. I've said to them, if you have regrets when you finish your career, they're more likely to be about what you didn't do rather than what you did do. So try things. Don't put things off by thinking, oh, I might not be good at that. You might not be so good at it, but it'll help you to learn about it. So don't just talk about how good you are, do it. Sometimes people have what we call baggage, okay? It's things that they've got in the past in their mind. And if you're not where you want to be in life, or you haven't got what you want, it's probably because you haven't let go of something that's in your way, something that's taking up space. It could be barriers or limits that you've got used to. You might moan about them, but you become attached to them. You have to let go. Now, there's an analysis with a sailing issue here, where if you're looking to go in a boat and you sail around the harbor, you're going to be fairly safe, but that's not like being out on the ocean. And at some stage, you need to test yourself. In the big game, you need to test yourself to find new ways to do things. And in that case, you need to leave the harbor.